is? It's the break week also. Yeah. So we will not be meeting for class next week, and everything that is on the class page for this week is due April 6th. Okay, so you can get everything done this week. You can spread it out over 2 weeks, or you can um, do it whenever you want to. Up to you. Now, this week is also the frog dissection lab. It has come up really fast this year because typically I do it in like week 28, but we're in week 26. So this week you do have to dissect your frog. But I have on the class page, I only have 6 people that have voted. 10 people are here currently. So if you have not voted, please go and vote on what, like if you were to show up, if you know for sure you don't want to do it with me on the computer, like I will be your virtual lab partner. I will be doing the frog on my camera, and then you could be doing your frog at the same time. You understand? So that we're, but that's this week. That's either going to be tomorrow or Thursday, depending on the votes I get. Now you can do it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You can do it Monday. You can do it next week if you want to, because we're on break. But if you want to do it, the dissection with me as a virtual lab partner, you would have to do it with me Wednesday, tomorrow, or Thursday. So you can go to the update page and you can select when you want to do it. Are you just getting in, Rowan? Yeah, we're talking about the frog dissection. So I need to there's 11 people. I don't know who has voted and who has not voted, but go and vote. If you know that you want me to be a lab partner, choose what time and day you want to do it. And it's just going to be a democratic vote. You know, the most right now it says Wednesday at 11 a.m. on the update page. Class page, like when you go to materials updates and Schoology. Okay. All right. So by the end of class, I'll tell you what time it is tomorrow. Okay. As you guys do your vote, you don't have to do it with me. You can do it completely on your own. I will post the recording. You can watch the recording. But if you want to do it with me so that you can see how I'm doing it, you know, at the same time you're doing it, that's the reason I do the frog dissection live. I've done many of them. Usually my daughter helps me. She'll be in class tomorrow. Yeah. So if you want to do it with me, choose a time and we go from there. Any questions on that? I still only have 6 people who have voted. There we go. I got 7 people that have voted. Well, if you're not going to be there no matter what, then your vote doesn't matter. Your vote won't count. So, all right. Who got the wordle of the day? Ellie, what's the wordle of the day? Mimicry. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about what mimicry is versus, you know, camouflage, adaptations, and whatnot. So there's my cat. He only does it in my biology class. He doesn't do it in my chemistry class. It's like, it must be the time of day. He wants to come sit on my lap and listen to me talk. Yes. All right. All right, let's go here. So let's, just over here under today, I have today's class right here. So we're going to review mammalia, do a little bit more review. We'll do a Venn diagram, invertebrate, vertebrates, kind of go over that. We'll talk a little bit more about that body system project. We're going to do a heart rate lab, and then we have break next week. So that will, we'll just kind of put that in there. And then looking forward, because we are turning the corner and wrapping up, like the next 5 weeks are going to go by really fast for us. And then you're going to be done with biology, high school biology. Okay. And you will have learned so much information. You'll be like, oh, dang, I learned a lot. But so we have week 27. We're going to go over body systems. Week 28 will be your presentations. Again, everybody needs to present. Everybody's going to get a body system, and everybody has to be here to present. Okay. Almost free. I'm not going to take that as an insult. Week 29 is we're going to do a Kahoot in class, and then you have science journal presentations. And again, so you're going to be doing some presentations. So be prepared for that. Get those done. I know it's high school. It's a high school science class. There's always going to be homework. All right. And then week 30, we'll do a cumulative review and a Kahoot, and we'll do a class picture with everybody in it where everybody kind of goes, hey, here's my class pic from bio. So that is what the rest of the year looks like. So hopefully you can see the end in sight. All right. Let's get started on class Mammalia. Okay, so we were talking about animals. We went over the invertebrate kingdoms. We talked about the vertebrate kingdoms, and there's a lot of phylums. I think there's 12 main phylums that we in both the invertebrate and vertebrate, right? And we have the phylum Chordata, which is the chordates. And within the chordates, we have, fish, birds, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. Okay, so those are the classes that we find. But under the class Mammalia, there are 3 subclasses. And so the class Mammalia means that they have mammary glands. That means that they have lactation and they provide milk for their young. Okay, and so other characteristics for the class Mammalia are cartilage and bone. Okay, we have bones, we have cartilage, our ears, our nose, those are cartilage. We also have bones, right? We have high surface area lungs. That means we breathe in oxygen, we exhale carbon dioxide. We have a pulmonary system, and we have the circulatory system. Our pulmonary system is where that gas exchange happens, right? The pulmonary system is where the gas exchange happens, where the blood in our circulatory system is pumped into the pulmonary system, picks up oxygen, removes the carbon dioxide from the blood, and then goes back into the heart and is pumped through the circulatory system back throughout the entire body. So high surface area, lots of alveoli in the lungs. And if you have ever seen the image, there's a meme out there where it's like an oak tree growing up. And I'll see if I can find it. And then going down is it looks like lungs. Okay, it shows how a tree and lungs are interrelated. It's a pretty picture. Okay, what else do mammals have? They have hair. Okay, so we have hair on our head, we have hair on our arms. Maybe some of you have more hair than other people, but it's for insulation, and mainly fat is for insulation, but so is hair. And waterproofing, just think about that. It rolls it rolls off. water soluble. We store fat, some more than others, you know, and that fat helps insulate our bodies and helps us maintain homeostasis. We have a single lower jawbone. So you guys could open your mouth and close your mouth, you know, and touch it, make it and feel it. That's your mandible. You can open and close it. That's a single lower jawbone. And that is what we find in class Mammalia also. They exhibit parental care. That means that they, obviously care for their young. Um, some more than others, right? And they help keep them warm. They there's obviously something that they recognize that they can't quite take care of themselves yet, right? And their initial food supply is the lactation, and from the mammary glands in the class Mammalia. They're warm-blooded. That means that they are endothermic. So we have to produce our heat. Well, how do we produce our heat? We've already talked about cellular respiration, right? What are the byproducts of cellular respiration? Cellular respiration is the burning of the sugar in our body, glucose, converting that glucose with oxygen that we inhale into carbon dioxide, which we exhale, water, which we can excrete or stay in our body, and heat and energy, ATP. So that heat helps maintain our body temperature of 98.6 degrees. We also have a 4-chambered heart. Okay, we've talked about there's a 2-chamber heart in fish, 3-chamber heart in amphibians and reptiles. Crocodiles are the one reptile that has a 4-chambered heart, which can be explained in our worldview, or in secular versus a Christian worldview. We can explain that, and we can explain how an evolution of a 2-chamber heart to a 3-chamber heart actually would never be beneficial for an animal because it would die in the process. Okay, so we have these 4-chambered hearts. We also have a brain, some more than others, right? We have that cerebrum, which processes the information. We have a cerebellum, which provides muscle coordination, and we have the brainstem, which connects it to the rest of the body. Okay, so there's 3 main components to that brain. When we look at the class Mammalia, there are 3 subclasses, and those subclasses are Monotremata, Marsupiala, and Placentalia. Monotremata is like the platypus and cheetahs. I love the word puggle. That's like a baby. It hatches very early from a leathery kind of egg, and it stays in a pouch, and it latches on and it feeds in the pouch. So, you're a puggle in a pouch, kind of it's kind of cute sounding. And then we have marsupialis. This gives birth to an immature baby also. And it raises in the pouch, but it is they deliver, it's really kind of, 1, it's graphic, and 2, it's kind of scary. What happens with marsupials is they give birth to this immature baby, and the baby actually has to climb on the outside of the pouch and climb into the pouch. And then it finishes. Talk about a hard way to enter life, okay? It's like a baby raising itself saying, "Oh, I know where I need to get, but how do I get there? I'm just, I'm barely alive." But this immature little baby has to crawl on the outside of the pouch to get into the pouch. And once it's in the pouch, then it stays there. Almost all marsupials are found in Australia, but there is a marsupial that's found in North America. I talked about this last week, and that is the opossum. Okay, and opossums are actually beneficial. There's possums and then opossums, but we usually say possum, and we think about the opossum when we say possum. But there's two different animals there. We're talking about the opossum, which is it eats ticks. It can eat up to like 1,000 ticks a day, and we know that ticks can cause disease. So it's beneficial for these opossums, to um, eat, to have these opossums around. And a lot of people they're like, they're gross. But I'm like, and then they also, one of the ways that possums survive is they actually play dead. Not the ones that are actually dead on the side of the road that have been hit by a car, but they actually will play dead when they are, um, you know, threatened. So that is an adaptation that they have so that an animal leaves them alone, or a predator leaves them alone. And then we have the placentalia class, which is, how we typically see mammals. Most animals have their embryos develop in utero. They have a live birth, forms just after fertilization, attaches to the lining of the uterus. And then when, you know, it's time, they push out both the baby and the placenta, and they're connected via an umbilical cord to that placenta, which is where they can get that's where they get their nutrition from, in utero. Okay. Mammals have special characteristics. Okay, so Felidae, which is cats, they have these whiskers, which can also be called radar sensors with many nerves. So they sense a lot of stuff. And so sometimes, like, honestly, cats' whiskers are very sensitive. Okay. We don't think about that, because we can pet them, but they feel things and they sense air movement with their whiskers. Kind of remember we talked about that Jacobson organ with snakes, and that Jacobson organ, they're flicking out their tongue, and that tongue is picking up chemical receptors, olfactory chemical receptors, that is processed by that Jacobson organ, so they can sense predators, prey, or whatever. Okay, manatees, the Sirenia, no bone marrow for buoyancy, so their bones are really light. And we know this like from birds. Birds have hollow bones also, right? So, and that makes them light. But here we have an animal that can hold its breath underwater and, is basically a sea cow. Chiroptera is a flying mammal. They use something called echolocation. Again, that's an adaptation that they have to sense bugs. So it's like they're sending out sounds that we don't hear, and those sounds are bouncing back, and that gives them an indicator of where there are mosquitoes and bugs and just insects and flying insects that they can go and eat. Okay. Cetaceae, cetaceae, whales, animals, mammals that live in the ocean. Remember, the ocean water can be cold, right? So these animals have adaptations of thick fat, blubber. And they also have something called myoglobin, which is a protein that allows for, when they do their deep dives, when they're breathing in oxygen, when they surface and they breathe in their oxygen, that myoglobin helps them to use their oxygen in a beneficial way to help them on those deeper dives and stay underwater for a longer period of time. So kind of interesting when you start going through all of these different special mammal characters. I mean, there's hundreds of them, right? But these are just a few that kind of give you an idea that every animal has a specialization for their survival. So their adaptations, some of them can be structure: beaks, fur, teeth, claws, and ears. Obviously, we looked at birds last week, I believe, and we looked at their claws and their beaks. And I think there was something that I was watching. I'll see if I can get it off my phone and post it on the class page, but it talks about a woodpecker And the force at which a woodpecker hits the wood is enough to, like, basically mush the brain of a human. So when you think about a woodpecker hitting the side of a tree, the pressure that is happening in their, on their brain is so much, but they have a special muscle that holds the brain so it doesn't turn to mush, but the pressure like huge. I can't remember what it is. So obviously that is an adaptation. Now, how would it have adapted to do that? Because the first bird to hit at a full force, if you have a bird hit your window too hard, what happens to the bird if it's not a woodpecker? We get birds hitting our windows all the time. They die because their brain is not protected the way that a woodpecker is. So how do you explain that adaptation being beneficial and then a bird hitting a tree, like it just doesn't quite make sense, right? Unless it was designed that way. All right, mimicry, the resemblance of one animal to another or object for protection or concealment. All right, so mimicry, we have like the eastern coral snake versus the scarlet king snake. Very similar looking, but the colors, the black is fat versus the red is fat. I think that there's some sort of a saying. I don't know if anybody knows the saying on this snake, but in this, typically we say red means dead, right? Like if we were talking about, shooting guns. Um, but in this case, the red is like the non-venomous one. And if you look at the owl versus the moth, okay, you have a moth that looks like the eyes of an owl. An owl is a predator. A moth would get eaten by birds, but smaller birds can get eaten by owls. So this moth has mimicry so that it does not get eaten by birds. Now, how does the moth know to look like an owl? Unless a moth is a sentient being, right? We've talked, this whole AI sentiency type stuff that we're going down that path towards. But it's like the moth doesn't know to go look like an owl, right? It was designed that way. All right. Camouflage. A color pattern of an animal to blend in with its environment. So here's some pictures. Here's a fish on the bottom of a lake. Kind of hard to see that one. There is a ram up here. All right. This puffer fish, not quite sure what it's trying to look like, but it makes itself look bigger. Okay. So that is also an adaptation, is to make yourself look bigger than it is. We have our possum playing dead right here. Hopefully that's just one that's playing dead in that image and not an actual dead possum. We have migration. So we see birds. Yeah. We see birds flying north and south. We have um, monarch butterflies that fly, up and down the coast of Mexico and California. If anybody has ever been to the butterfly migration area near Pims, I think it's near Pimsmo Beach or something like that, where there's like unbelievable amounts of butterflies. It is phenomenal. If you get a chance to go when the butterflies are there, you will not believe how many butterflies there are. What's the other one that flies? I don't think it's humming. Is it hummingbirds from Brazil across the Gulf of whatever you want to call it? We're not going there. But they have to make it from Brazil across the ocean or across the Gulf. And like they have to have enough food and energy to make it. And there's a migration of these hummingbirds. And that just floors me because these like think about a bird. If they're cold, like remember birds, um, they have feathers. I think birds are, I believe, ectothermic, right? I'd have to review that. Why am I not remembering it right now? Can somebody type in Google really quick? Are birds ectothermic? Because I'm like, I should know this and I'm not remembering it. Um, but anyways, they they have to eat their food to really. They are not. Okay, they are endothermic. Reptiles and amphibians and birds are ectothermic. And then fish and mammals are endothermic. Okay. And so that's right. And then so they have to eat their food, a lot of food. And that's why in the wintertime, it's like you put out seed because um if they can't get enough food in the wintertime and they didn't migrate to somewhere warm and it's super cold and they have their feathers on them. That's why they fluff up because the air and the feathers help insulate. But if they can't get enough food, they get too cold and they will die. So putting out seed on those cold days can be beneficial to a bird. Anyway, last one is hibernation as an adaptation. It's a long rest, sleep, relying on stored food or fat. They burrow, toads, they burrow down in dens. Um, Bears will, feast in the fall, and then they will go into their den and they will just sleep, and their whole body will slow down. So again, adaptations. And then the book goes from class Mammalia and the subclasses, and then it breaks down one of the mammal classes between primates and humans. Okay, now primates, part of the mammal kingdom. Okay, placental mammals, and they have large brains, forward-facing ears. Um, so when we talk about primates and humans, obviously, I don't believe we came from monkeys, but there are some significant differences. And bipedalism is one of them, where we stand up and walk on our 2 feet. Um, we take strides when we walk. We have more of an S-shaped vertebrae versus an arch, which is huge. Um, Brachiation is arms. So the length of our arms and opposable thumbs are more elaborate. Now, those are just some of the main differences between primates and humans. We have primates can be broken down into 2 categories: prosimians and arthropods. Arthropods can be broken down into monkeys and apes. Apes can be broken down into old world or into lesser apes and greater apes. And when you look at the cladograms and a non-creation, humans, gorillas, chimps, the larger primates, the great apes are in that same category. Versus the lesser apes, which are smaller, highly arboreal, okay, arborist, something that, somebody that is in the trees. So gibeons and Southeast Asia area and stuff like that. So that's what we're looking at there. Arthropods, monkeys, have tails. New World monkeys found in Central and South America. Old World monkeys, Africa and Asia. So just some differences between primates and humans. All right. We are done with pretty much chapter 12, except for the body systems. And that's where we're going to kind of be for the rest of this period of time. 26, rest of today. So 27, 28, and 29 will be body systems, presentations, review, and then we'll do that cumulative review the last day of class and kind of wrap up anything that we have missed, and then you guys are done with biology. But let's describe the 7 different classes of vertebrates in the table below. So what we'll do here is you can take out your book if you have it near you, or you can do it from your notes or from memory. But let's have you guys just put stuff in the discussion box. If I don't see everybody participating, I might call on your name. So if everyone's participating and kind of putting something in the discussion box, I don't need to call you out to answer it. But let's see what we can remember from our 7 different classes of vertebrates. So if I say, what is an agnathan? What describes agnathans? Give me um, an example. What are we? Yeah. So Amalia says jawless fish. Does anybody have an example of what a jawless fish is? So a hagfish. They don't regulate temperature. Okay. There was one other one besides the hagfish. But the reason they're in the vertebrates is because they have a chordata. They are part of the vertebrate animals. And so they have that chordata, but their notochord does not develop into bones. You remember that? So let me see. I'm going to does not develop into bones, a backbone. Okay. So jawless fish, agnathans. Chondrichthyans. What are we looking at when we look at chondrichthyans? Aquatic vertebrates with fins. Okay. Yes. But a fish has fins. So it's not just with fins. These are our cartilaginous vertebrate, marine vertebrate animals. And our examples of these are rays, sharks. There is something to do with fins, Dante, and I don't have my notes in front of me. I think there has to do with their openings, their gill openings. They have a single, multiple gill openings on these ones also. Yeah, so we have sharks, rays. What's the other one? Sharks, rays. There's one other one. Skates? I think it's skates. Okay. Multiple gill openings. There's a couple other characteristics too. But these are our cartilage fish. Now, when we talk about astictes, what are we talking about there? Yeah. Sure, we can say a goldfish. We can say bony fish. Catfish, grouper. Pretty much any of them that we eat, right? Salmon. Who likes salmon here? Yeah. I cook me some mean salmon. I'm really good at it. I grew up in Washington State, so I only eat like wild caught Alaskan salmon, or if it's fresh from Washington State. Like it can be frozen here because I can't get it in Colorado, right? But fish. I cooked a fish the other night, and like a week or so ago, and it was just it was so moist. It was so good. But anyhow, all right, yeah. So we have these bony fish, and that's pretty much it's a pretty large category. But I believe they have what is it called? Operculum is a single opening, kind of that bony single opening. So they're, the side of their mouth where they boop, 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 right? That's their operculum. All right, next one. We have 7 different classes of vertebrates. One of them is amphibia. Amphibia is going to be, good job, cold-blooded, ectothermic, live on land and in water, water. Now that would be where the term ambi comes from. Amphibian means both, right? Amphi means both bio, life. So both live on land and water. That's right. They usually start in the water and go to land. Okay. What else do we have? That's right. So okay, Rowan says animals, their gills are removed and they live on land. And once they live on land, their lungs change. So what kind of, yes, Amalia, they go through metamorphosis. What kind of metamorphosis do they go through? Indirect, complete, indirect, if I can spell indirect, complete metamorphosis, metamorph. So what that means is that they're changing. There's a complete change. Humans are direct metamorphosis. We start off as a baby and we just get to, we don't change. What we do, we grow, but we still, like, we have the head, we have the arms, like, we're not losing parts of our body or changing things completely. Okay. The only thing that would change would be at maturity, where your reproductive system and hormones change. Yeah, wouldn't it be creepy? Be weird. Okay, so then we go to class Reptilia. What are we talking about when we get to class Reptilia? Yeah, cold blood, ectothermic, scales, rely on the outside temperature for heat. We have, bearded dragons. What else do we have? There's a lot of them, right? There's salamanders, snakes, frogs, and toads would be amphibia. Yeah. Okay. So we're looking at general characteristics, though, and salamanders are amphibia. Yeah, crocodiles are reptilia. Alligators, turtles. Yeah. Then we go into the class aves. What are aves? Birds. Okay, so an aviary is where you would go and look at birds inside a place. They are warm-blooded, which is endothermic. They have feathers. Oviparity, good job. That's a word, oviparous. Oviparity, that means that they lay eggs. An adaptation for hollow bones, good job. What else do they have? Does anybody remember how they breathe? There we go, bidirectional respiration. So that means they have air sacs. Okay, that helps them flap their wings and breathe at the same time. No teeth, that's right. So they have beaks, no teeth. Um, their their beaks and their claws maybe match their habitat that they live in, and their purpose. All right. And then we're just going to review class Mammalia. That means they have mammary glands, right? Main one, right? There's 3 subclasses. Make sure you recognize those 3 subclasses. They're endothermic or warm-blooded. They have fat. They have hair or fur to stay warm. They have the mandible. Yep. Parental care. What else did we say? 4-chambered heart. Yep. All right. Looks like you guys got your basics down. Okay, so remember the classes of your vertebrate. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then there's 5 classes, or let's see. Oh, okay, yeah, and then there's like 7 classes of invertebrates also. Okay, so we'll talk. We'll look over those here in a second because we are going to do some review here. Okay, so which of the following animals is not a vertebrate? A, B, C, or D? Everybody, you know what? Let me open a poll. I'm going to open up a poll really quick. Let me do it this way. Live poll. Oh, come on, open up. There we go. New poll pod. Let's do it this way. Bring that down. It's going to be multiple choice, and we're going to go A, B, C, or D. Okay, and we'll just do whatever question I'm asking you. We launch our poll. I don't have, okay. So, which of the following animals is not a vertebrate? A, B, C, or D? Go ahead and put your answers in. That way I can make sure everybody's answering too. Okay, so Ellie, Dante, Benjamin. Dante, Benjamin, need your answers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No? Yeah, Dante, over on the poll. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Okay. There we go. Next one. Yes. So if you said A, it looks like everybody said A. Good job. Good job. Which of the following is a group of warm-blooded animals? A, B, C, or D in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. If you said B, you are correct. Okay. C, reptiles are not warm-blooded. They are cold-blooded and require energy from the sun, heat from the sun to stay warm. All right, next question. Which of the following animals has a backbone? Snail, lobster, worm, or snake? All right, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Put your answer in. This one looks a little bit harder. Which of those has a backbone? If you said D, you are correct. Which one of those is a vertebrate? A backbone means that you have a vertebrate. Everything else, the worm is an invertebrate. The snail, phylum Mollusca. Okay, the worm, Annelida. You guys did your lab on that. You also did your crayfish dissection virtual lab. So a lobster is under cnidarian, right? No, arthropod, sorry, arthropod. And your arthropods, crustaceans are part of your arthropods. So if you said D, you are correct. Which of the following is not a characteristic of mammals? A, B, C, or D? Excuse me. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Jace, Keziah, Seth. All right, if you said B, you are correct. They have moist skin covered in scales. That is not a characteristic of a mammal. All right. Review invertebrate. Does it have wings? This is a dichotomous key. You guys have created your own dichotomous key. So, does it have wings? Yes or no. Does it have a striped body? Yes or no. Does it have 8 legs? Yes or no. Which animal is labeled as Z? Is it an insect, an ant, a spider, or a snail? Go ahead and put your answer in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you put the answer of C, spider, does it have 8 legs? A spider has 8 legs. Okay, that would be the right answer. All right, done with our poll. Good job. Now, I would like everybody to raise their hand. Can these be? Those would be easy questions on a test, Rowan, but I have to give you a little bit of depth, right? Sorry. All right, Dante, Keziah, can you guys raise your hand? Thank you. What we're going to do is we're going to go through a Venn diagram, compare and contrast vertebrates and invertebrates. So what we're going to do up here is we're going to put vertebrate, and then we're going to put invertebrate over here. Okay, so again, with a Venn diagram, these are only, anything in this circle right here is only vertebrate. Anything over here is just invertebrate, and anything in the middle means that they both exhibit the same thing. All right, so Amalia, I'm going to just start with you. The very first one is has a backbone. Where does that go? Is that going to be vertebrate, invertebrate, or both? That's right. So, oops. Has a backbone. Okay, the next one, you can put your hand down once you've been called on. Benjamin, less than 10% of the animals on Earth. Is that going to be a vertebrate or both or invertebrate? Yeah, less than 10%. Really, I think it's only like 3%. It's not a lot. All right. Faith. Mammals. Where do we find the mammals? Yep. Okay. Cross these off. Lily, where do we find echinoderms? Yep. If you don't know what an echinoderm is, somebody want to give us an example of an echinoderm? What is the echinoderms? Anybody remember? Starfish. Yeah. So echinoderms are like the starfish, sea stars and whatnot. Spiny skin. Echinoderm skin. Spiny skin. All right, Lily, hand down. Jace, annelids. Where do we find annelids? Yeah. What is an example of an annelida? Who remembers what annelids are? Worms, like an earthworm. Okay, good job. Rowan, where do we put reptiles? Yeah, vertebrae. Okay. Jace, Rowan, you guys can drop your hands. Ellie, amphibian. Amphibians are like our frogs and whatnot. Amphibian is actually a vertebrate animal. Okay, they have a backbone. Okay. Sarah, animals. Yeah, both. Good job. We are still in Kingdom Animalia. All right, Seth, live on Earth. I would say both too. That one was really hard, wasn't it? That's why you want these types of questions on the test, right, Rowan? Yeah. All right. Ellie, Seth, you guys can drop your hands. Ingram, sponges. Where do we put sponges? Is it not going? He said invertebrates, yes. Thank you. Oops, I'm typing invertebrate instead of sponges. There we go. All right. Next one, Keziah, composed of cells. Both. Yeah. All right, and then Dante. Life cycle includes birth, growth and reproduction, and death. That's all one. Yeah. I'm just going to type life cycle right there. Okay. So let's cross off what we have so far. We have sponges, composed of cells. Okay. Let's see. We are done with everybody has gone through it at least once. So if you want to answer, we have a few more. Raise your hands. I'll just start from there. Um, Ingram, your hand was still up, but if you want to type no backbone, where does that go? Or have your sisters type it or say it. Invertebrate, yeah. Okay. And Amalia, mollusks. Yeah, that's also invertebrate. Okay. Okay, and then Faith, over 90% of the animals. Yeah, invertebrate. Then we have Ellie, arthropods. Yeah, that would be invertebrate also. All right, Kazaya, worms. Yep, invertebrate. We have, remember there's other types of worms. We have Annelida, there's platyhelminthes, there's the roundworms. So there's different types of worm categories out there. So make sure you understand those different parts of the different classes of invertebrate animals. So we have worms here also. And then Lily, Cnidarian. Yep. Give me an example of a Cnidarian. What are examples of Cnidarians? Anybody? Polyp, or you could say a hydra. So what does a polyp turn into? Polyps are the mobile stage. Medusas are the mobile stage. So when you see jellyfish, we are looking at the adult stage of the Cnidarian. Okay. Let's see, I have two more, fish and birds. Where do those both go? Everybody can answer. Those are, yeah. So we have fish and birds over here. Okay, so there's our Venn diagram. We've completed it. Think about all these different categories. What are the examples that go along with them? Okay, what are those three subclasses of mammals? What are amphibians, fish, birds? Has a backbone. Mammals, reptiles. Mammals. Oh, we didn't get reptiles over here. There's reptiles over here. Did I miss reptiles? Where did I put reptiles? I must have skipped it. All right, there's reptiles. Okay, understand your categories of invertebrate. We have sea sponges, simple, echinoderms, cnidarians, and then we went into platyhelminthes and then roundworms, and then and how they're parasitic. And then we talked about Annelida, which is the earthworm. And then after we talked about phylum Mollusca, which has the gastropod. which is the stomach foot, the cephalopod, right? Which is like an octopus or a squid. Okay, so remember the breakdown of some of these categories as you guys are studying for your next test. Okay, now we are done with our invertebrates and vertebrates. Look at that. What I want to do is quickly, if you guys want to go to your class page and you look at your Choose a Body System project. We have, if you look at updates, we assigned the body systems, right? And I think I have it posted. Let's just make sure I have it posted. Yep. If you go to the updates and you say assigned body systems, everybody kind of got what they wanted. So Amalia and Seth, you're the nervous system. Faith and Benjamin, you're the circulatory system. Sarah and Graceland, your immune and lymphatic system. Ellie, your digestive. Ingram, your respiratory. Dante, you're the renal system. Micah and Jace, your endocrine. Rowan, your integumentary system. Lily, your musculatory. Kyle and Kazai, your skeletal. Okay, so there should be no confusion on that. And then when we look at what we are supposed to do, if you go and click on the projects and you click on Choose a Body System, you're going to be making a PowerPoint slide that needs to be uploaded as a PDF. Make sure that there's nothing funny in it that isn't going to come up. Okay, you can upload an actual PPTX if you want to, but those are the only two ways that I can accept it. It's either a PowerPoint slide presentation or a PDF, nothing else. You guys know that. When you're looking at the body system, it says functions. It's highlighted in green. If you're on it with me on the class page, when you look at it, it says, what is absorption, digestion, respiration, biosynthesis, excretion, egestion, secretion, movement, irritability, homeostasis, and reproduction. Those are some of those big picture functions that all of our systems are undertaking. Follow the rubric, Lily. That's how I'm going to answer that. Okay. Make sure that you're including everything in there. It doesn't need to be long. Again, 4 to 5 minutes is all that I can give you guys. Okay. If you do it in 3, that's fine. But if you're over 5, I have to stop you so that we can get through everybody in class. 5 minutes max. You only have to choose your one body system. And so in that, you're going to explain terminology from your system guide worksheet, which I'm going to talk about here. You're going to maintain homeostasis. Let me actually do this really quickly. Let me go to my screen right down here. That is not helping because it's too small. Whoa, what just happened? Did that get weird for you guys really quick? Mine just completely glitched. Okay, let me make this bigger. There's a bug. My goodness, no, it's not working. Can you guys hear me? Okay. That was really weird. All right, so now you should be able to see it with me. Okay, so when we're looking at, we have terminology, clear defined terms in your own words. So we're not going to be copying, pasting, we're not going to be, doing whatever we need to do. Try not to use Google, AI, anything, okay? You're just going to be typing this out. You're going to talk about homeostasis on a slide. So describe how your system works to maintain homeostasis. You're going to do a thorough, correctly relates to the body systems and the ideal conditions. So when you're talking about your circulatory system and you're talking about your blood, maybe you mention pH of your blood. Okay. You're going to have a diagram in there that shows your actual body system. So you're going to, make sure that your stuff is labeled in your body system. Like when you are presenting, you don't need to go through everything in detail, like what this does and what this does and what this does, but you do need to show your body system and have your structures labeled clearly. You're going to include 5 facts. Um, your facts should include the functions that are listed. So, um, whether like you can say, well, digestion. If you're doing the digestive system, digestion should definitely be one fact. Now, it can be a fun fact. It can be a clear, useful fact. You could say, you have this your stomach lining renews itself every so often because of the high acidity in the stomach that helps break down the food, and that food that is being digested is being absorbed, into the bloodstream, and there and whatnot. So when it's absorbed into the bloodstream, there is an interaction between your systems. Okay. And that's what we want to describe as our homeostasis, is how your system works and relates to other body systems. It's not just like, oh, here's your digestive system. It's your mouth all the way down to your colon and your stomach. That's true. But I want you to go a little bit deeper and explain how they interact with each other. So those are some of the things that I'm going to be required from you. I want you to research 3 diseases. These do not have to go into depth, but let's say you have an immunodeficiency, or let's say you're doing the immune system and you are looking at a disease of your immune system, and maybe it's I'm sharing my screen right now. So can you guys see my screen? Okay. Don't go into depth on it. Like lupus is an autoimmune disorder. Okay. So maybe you talk about 3 diseases, high level, but demonstrates research and explains the symptoms, cause, and the treatment. Creativity, neatness, your functions, thoroughly describe major functions, and then your level of organization. Okay, so I give you an example. Nerve cells or neurons are your cell level. They build nerve tissue, which builds part of the nervous system, and then that makes up the brain. The spinal cord and the nerves are your organs, and that's all part of your nervous system. Okay, so I want you to have built-in levels of organization. Just like when we were talking about plants have the parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma cells. We have the xylem and phloem. There were 7 different types of main cells in a plant that develop into their root shoot system, their vascular cambiums, their vascular system, and whatnot. So you're going to be doing that. Now, when you are looking at guiding yourself on this, your human body system posters. So if we go view here, you should be able to see, here's the circulatory system. If you're not doing the circulatory system, you don't have to fill out this one. If you're doing the digestive system, you fill out this one, and this will help you understand what you need to put into your slides. Here's the endocrine system. Okay. So again, this is your guide for, you can fill this out to help you navigate your system. This next link that I'm clicking on, how to make the poster. Again, this is the rubric right here, right? So for example, major functions of the body, terminology that we've used. Absorption is a major function of the digestive system. Pretty straightforward. Okay, so that's just the rubric. And then review sheet. Okay, Body systems and their functions. This is duplicated, so you just have to look at this. But here's your circulatory. Here's what you find in your digestive. So all of these things are there. Use your book, use your the tools that you have provided for, and these things will help you to do your presentation. Yeah. So all of this stuff is there for you guys. You just have to put it together and explain it. Not too bad. Okay. You guys can do it. And oh my goodness, that's loud. I don't know why that keeps doing that. All right. Any questions on your body system project? All right. So let's see, we have 15 minutes. I wanted to go through the body systems. Let me just, what I'm going to do, maybe we'll come back and kind of review this a little bit more next week. Let's do the class heart rate lab. Oh, I have 15 minutes. How do I want to do this? Again, Ellie, you got to look at it. Just look at the rubric. There's no specific number, but it needs to stay under 5 minutes. Okay. What I'm actually going to do is we will do the heart rate lab next when we get back. Okay. Put that right there and go here. We just got done talking. Let's just overview all of these body systems today, so that we are prepared for the other assignments that you have due. Now, remember, everything from this week is due April 6th because we don't have class next week. We have a frog dissection lab that's due April 6th. And then we have mammals and organ systems and a color by number. And then there's a handful of extra credit. Whenever you see that E.C, that means it's extra credit. You don't have to do it. You can do it if you want extra credit points. But when it comes to the frog dissection, it looks like we're just eking out. We have 3 that want to do it on Thursday and 3 that want to do it on Wednesday at 11. Is there any, if there was a tiebreaker between those Wednesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m., would somebody be able to do both, either one of those days? If you go to the update page and click on a link, you can't do Thursday. If you are not going to be here, you do not need to vote. So if you're definitely not going to make it, you can remove I don't know if you can remove your vote. Sure, you can turn it in because right now I'm debating between Wednesday and Thursday. That would be tomorrow. Is there anybody else that can do tomorrow versus Thursday? Who has it on Thursday? Jace, you can make it Thursday. Who can't? Who else signed up for Thursday? From what I'm understanding, I think Wednesday, tomorrow at 11 a.m. is going to be the best time. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say tomorrow at 11. I can't do 2. I only have 1 frog. So tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, so 9 o'clock my time, like I'm just getting up and having breakfast. I'm going to go dissect a frog. Okay. Jace, if there's any way, we would love to have you. If you can't make it, you can Dante, where are you? No, that's 11 a.m. Eastern is not 6 a.m. your time. Yeah, because we're both on Mountain Time. It's 9 a.m. It's a 12:18 for me. Yeah. Like that. Yeah, that's early. Um, but I will post the recording for those of you who uh oh, you're on Pacific Coast. Okay. So you're just so it would be 8 a.m. for you. Still early. Eat breakfast beforehand though, right? All right, so tomorrow at 11 a.m. I will put it in my calendar and we will do our frog dissection tomorrow morning. Okay. Let's go through the body systems really quickly for the last 10 minutes of class. Let me just frog dissection Wednesday, 11 a.m. Tuesday. Do you guys see? I went Tuesday and it said TUE, thank you. How that happened, Tuesday, um, the 25th. All right. So you're just going to come into our normal classroom and I'll have everything set up. I'll have my frog sitting on the screen and we'll go through and we'll talk about and we'll actually go through the worksheet and then you'll be done with your frog dissection. Have a garbage can nearby, Dante. I think you'll be okay. Like I said, I've done this numerous times and I will post the recording. All right. So let's look over these body systems. Integumentary system, kind of a big word. An easier way to say it is skin. Okay, it's your skin. And your skin, your hairs, your nails, all of those are your organs or outcroppings of your organs, right? And what is the function? Protect the tissue um, beneath them. Oh, that's great. Honestly, I have there's like a shortage of frogs, and it's really hard to actually get frogs right now to dissect. So, and I've seen beetles in the stomach, and that's really cool. All right, so skin, hair, nails, that's an integumentary system. Muscular system. Your muscular system is you have your cardiac muscles, you have your smooth muscles, you have your skeletal muscles. So whoever's doing the muscular system, you're going to explain the different types of muscles and maybe how the cardiac muscle works different than a skeletal muscle. Okay, but that muscular system, it works obviously very directly with the skeletal system to help you move. But what else is it connected to? Because it's response to your brain and your nerves that send signals for your muscles to contract, right? So we're not just here's this and giving it to us on a platter. We want to understand how they are interconnected. That's the key to us learning about our body better, is how do they function together? Because we can say, oh, I have a bone, I broke a bone. But when we break our bone, like what else is happening in our body? Like, why are we feeling pain? Okay, it's because there's nerves that are part of that. And there's inflammation from the circulatory system that brings healing blood to our bone. And when we have that inflammation, it inflames the nervous system. So understand how these systems are working together. Skeletal system, bones, joints, ligaments, cartilage. Okay, what does that skeleton system do? Because if we didn't have our bones, what would happen? We'd be a big blob on the ground, right? It's the framework of protection and support, but they also are connected with what? They're connected with our circulatory system because we produce our red blood cells and our white blood cells in our bones. Okay, so make sure that you are talking about how we're interconnected with other systems. Jumping over cardiovascular, because we'll come back to that. Respiratory system. Everybody take a breath in through your nose, out your mouth. That's you're breathing in air and you're exhaling carbon dioxide, right? Your nose, your pharynx, your larynx, your trachea, your bronchia, your lung, your diaphragm. Well, your diaphragm is a muscle. So obviously your respiratory system is connected to your muscular system. There's a connection. Explain how that works. To take in oxygen and remove carbon dioxide and other waste. Gaseous waste goes out of our lungs. We have our nervous system, our brain, our spinal cord, nerves, motor neurons, sensory neurons, somatic and autonomic nervous systems. Okay, so whoever's doing nervous system, you can decide if you're going to just specifically focus on, introduce both, or if there's two of you doing the nervous system, one can do central and one could do peripheral, and you guys can figure that out. Who is doing nervous system? Amalia and Seth. So you guys could, chat back and forth and say, "Hey, I'll do this, and you do this," if you want to break it up that way. Okay, or you can do it all. Both of you can do it all. Okay, receive, send electrical signals throughout the body. Obviously, it's connected with a lot of things. Digestive system: teeth, mouth, salivary glands. Pharynx, esophagus, stomach, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, anus. Make sure that you are explaining how that nervous system, obviously blood comes into that nervous system and picks up the nutrients, and it absorbed into the system where the blood pumps it throughout the body. Okay, breaks down food so it can be used in the body. Urinary system, kidney, ureter, this is your renal system. Okay, ureter, urinary bladder, urethra, all produce, store, and eliminate urine. Okay, so make sure you understand all the, obviously part of cellular respiration is producing water. That water is in our blood system. It goes through our kidneys. It's filtered. Kidneys are a great filtering system. Our lymphatic system, okay? This has to do with the immune system. So tonsils, thymus, spleen, lymph nodes, lymphatic vessels. We don't think about having two circulatory systems, but the lymphatic system is very closely tied with the circulatory system. And we get lymph nodes that if you are swollen here, sometimes you have to drain them. Maybe you have lymph nodes that need to be drained here. And so when you're sick and your body gets sore and you're achy, it's like, oh, I want to drain my lymphatic system. You have them in your groin, behind your knees, in your armpits area. Those, you have a lot of lymph nodes in there. Endocrine, return leaked fluids back to the blood vessels to help get rid of bacteria and viruses. So that's part of your lymphatic system. Endocrine system, your glands. These are hormonal glands. Okay, so whoever's doing endocrine system gets to understand, your hypothyroid issues or hyperthyroid issues, your parathyroid, your adrenal glands, ovaries, testicles, all of that produce testosterone and estrogen in the body. Functions, controls functions by using chemicals made in those glands. We are not covering the reproductive system. If you want to cover that, you can cover that with your parents. But the last system is that cardiovascular system, heart, arteries, veins, capillaries, and blood. Okay, to pump blood, nutrients throughout the vessels in your body. Okay. And so the next thing that we'll come back to next week is we'll start here with that circulatory system, and your cardiovascular system. And we are going to do the heart rate lab and kind of go a little bit deeper into a couple different body systems. And but that is when we come back from break. You guys are on break now. Well, not quite yet. You got your homework for this week, and then and the frog dissection tomorrow morning, and then we will have Easter when we over break. So I pray that you guys have a wonderful Easter holiday with your family. He is risen, and we will come back April 7th, I believe, for week 27, and then we are on the downhill slope as we finish up our year of biology. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good week. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a great break.